You're on.
Call the meeting to order. I think we have a quorum.
Make sure it's on Kathy.
First order of business are the minutes of September 15th.
There's Claudia.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, well, we've changed slightly, works great.
It's all up here where it's easier to shoot it.
Doing a great job.
I said one of the groups will need to get rid of all of it.
Oh, man, one
Yeah.
fell swoop.
Do I hear any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion
So
to
moved.
approve them as read. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Barry second.
Bless you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Well, at least it doesn't have any recommendations. I think she probably has some, she just doesn't want to show them. Okay. Mary Cortez, you're on.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our first report is our investment. We do have a CD that will mature next month, but at that time we will see whether we need those funds in the account. We are coming.
I'm sorry, and I can't hardly hear you. You need to talk a little louder if you can.
On the investment report, we do have a certificate of deposit that will mature next month. But at that time, we will see whether we need those funds in the checking account or we'll go ahead and reinvest. We do have several capital projects that we are starting to work on, and we'll probably need those funds at that time.
And treasuries haven't gotten any better than CD.
You know, I verified the rates this morning. A 6-month rate is at 0.05. A 1-year rate is at 0.10, and an 18-month is at 0.24 at this time.
Well, so how's that compared to what our
Right.
bank rents our money for?
Well, our bank at the 6-month rate right now, we do have a 0.05, so they're similar. The 12-month, our highest is a 0.20. So we're slightly above that.
Good morning, Miguel. Okay.
You're right there in the corner by Mr.
They've changed things around the slide.
Sure.
And once you're here, you can take your mask off.
That's the way it looks.
Our next report is the balance sheet.
This investment report, we have to approve it, right? Today is quarter investment.
We do have our quarterly, yes, sir.
Yeah, why don't we just do that while we're here, since we're already on it?
I make the motion we approve the quarterly investment report. Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mary seconds. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Take care of that. Financial report.
Are there any questions on the balance sheet? Next report, we have our net revenue.
I mean, again, October 31 is the end of our fiscal.
Yes. October 30th.
One more month.
Yes, and we are preparing for that, our whole staff is. Next week, we also have our inventory audit as well. So we will have our auditors here
Okay.
Next week.
next week.
We'll have our auditors back again.
Yes, we do, and we also have the engagement letter up for approval
Okay.
as well.
I noticed that in the auditor's report, they took away that acreage reference they had originally. Remember, he had a reference, he said we had 69,010 acres, I pointed out that was not our deeded acreage. And so now it's just eliminated, so I think it's fine, I don't think it hurts anything. Just needs to get, if he's gonna have a reference, it needs to be right about it.
I will review that, Mr. Spear. I don't believe we removed that, but I will make sure.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Any questions? Our next report is our $500 check report.
Check report. Yeah, on that first one, that, Chewy, was that just, well drilling or that was just,
These are two new wells that we drilled on the island main to help in that area.
this was just the drilling, none of the pipe, none of the.
Yeah, this was the drilling, the pipe,
Yeah.
everything's set up just so that our guys are putting in the well, the motor and pump and all that.
But that is a casing.
The Yes.
With the casing?
Yes,
And
How's the casing and
Yes.
everything on it?
yes.
And how deep? Are these the 120, 125 or?
The first one was 122 feet,
105,
105,
and the second one was 100.
100, okay.
Is this with the auger, or is this done with an auger, or is this a
No,
regular,
it's
this is the regular,
the regular drill. Yeah,
Rub-
these guys can go as deep as 1,500 feet, I think.
oh yeah, these are the newer guys in there.
They can go further.
Yeah. What kind of casing do we put in there?
Yeah, 105 and 100,
It is a
what he said.
16 inch,
16 inch, the thickness,
and it's a 3/16.
360?
Yes,
Is it steel or is it
steel,
PVC?
not steel.
Steel.
What are they, what's the screen like? Is it just torch cuttings or?
Yes,
Just the cuttings, not the screen.
no, actually,
Yeah, not the-
right, that's just the cuttings on it.
Okay. Yeah, I think the other ones we used that louver and stuff on, but it was pretty thin, you know. I think it was an 1/8 louver, all that other steel we put in back in 2003.
It lasted 6 months, so.
Yeah, well, that's what I estimated, yeah, about a year, I think. I don't know, Pete, how many wells have we had collapse? Just 3 or 4 or
Yeah, we had about, I'm thinking about 4 or 5 now.
4 or 5?
Yeah. And we were able to save about 3 of them that were getting ready to collapse.
Well, at an 1/8 stick, that was pretty amazing. It lasted that long, huh?
Yes.
So we've sleeved how many feet so far?
We sleeved a total of about, I think it's 4 actually, that we've sleeved already.
That's good, you're able to do it, so.
Really clever.
It extends the life a lot further.
He's gonna control.
On the River Rock 29, what is that, what's that River Rock for?
That's the rock that's used to comply with TxDOT on when you're doing construction.
Oh, the entrance,
Yes.
the sewer plant?
Yes.
Okay.
On 4 and 6, how come, what's the deal there that we got 2 different vendors, I guess? Did they run out on the first one, or why are there 2 of them?
Which one are you looking at?
Number 4 and 6, and that's a lot of Roundup.
Oh, because we go out, our purchasing agent goes out and seeks the best price at the time, every time we're going to purchase.
What's Roundup right now?
Because they're the same
$50,
date.
$60 a gallon?
I think it's,
Those are
Looked like only
Okay,
30.
you know what it is? Round it? How much it is?
$710.
How much?
No, wait, about $31 a gallon.
$41.
yeah.
That's a good price.
Mhm.
Real good.
Elena's at 50, I think, already.
Yeah.
But they're the same date, so that they just,
It's the same day.
Those dates are
That's
the
the date they
date
wrote.
that
The dates.
The date they
the
wrote the
payment
check.
was
The
made.
date they wrote
oh,
the
the
check.
payment was made.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's the date they wrote the check. As You almost made it, Mary. Number 80 is 596. Almost made a $500 check.
On number 17, on number 17, the telemetry, the computer, what, is this to augment, add, or what was the purpose of the computer for telemetry? I'm assuming that we're up to date on all the equipment for telemetry, or is this just a matter of?
Yeah, we had to update our computer for our telemetry. The majority of the telemetry upgrade is being done by grant funding,
Okay.
but, yeah, we're staying on top of it to keep it and running or upgrading it all the time.
And number 65 on the last page is cement bags. That's not like Sackcrete, is it? Or it's from Joe?
From Joe?
It says Joe's Materials.
We utilize, we purchase concrete in bags, and Pete and I took a tour of the new Joe plant where he's constructing those new bridges way out in northeast El Paso. Anyway, we saw his cement plant. He showed us his cement plant and gave us a price on what he's selling the bags for. And so we're saving, I think it's $1 a bag, Pete?
Yes, sir.
Per
At least
bag.
about that, yes, sir.
These are like Sackcrete bags, like what you get?
Yeah, it's Portland cement,
Yeah,
Portland cement.
100
Oh,
pounds.
just the,
But manufactured by Joe?
correct.
Yes.
Wow.
oh.
Yeah. So he actually has a real nice setup out there, a nice little plant.
No, I didn't know he manufactured his own Portland.
He sells to the public also.
So they're like $10.70 a bag, but that's just the Portland cement. It's not a mixture.
No, it's just cement.
Yeah, it's cement, not concrete, it's just, I think he's just repackaging it, Art. It's, we don't have any, you know, to have a cement factory, you have to have a big limestone stock, so it'd have to be up towards,
I wanted to
Towards
go
Dell
see
City.
it, because that hadn't been huge, Did he think-
yeah, I mean, or he probably gets it out of Mexico by the trainload or something.
He does, yes. And he's got the track set up right next to his plant and everything, where the trains come in.
Are they 80 pounds also, isn't that standard?
Yes.
And they're 80 pounds?
Yes.
Or he maybe a handler for somebody. I thought they meant to do that. You're right. We probably wasn't used yet. It's been a couple of years since from that dumpster.
He's now also constructing all the bridges that TxDOT is using, the large bridges that were utilized in the downtown area on Loop 375 and that new expansion. He's constructing all those now instead of bringing.
2 or 3 days ago, he told me he got that contract.
And it's
Huge contract.
huge contract. I mean, Pete and I went out there because he says we can construct any size bridge that you might use for any type of weight that you might need. And so he ran us through his plans, showed us everything, how they construct and so on. It was quite impressive.
So instead of just supplying the materials, you're getting into the building and the design and all, you've got engineers and all sorts of people.
Well, instead of having to bring them way out those beams from Houston.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's constructing them here.
Yeah.
And shipping all over the place like this.
So what do they call those tension deals where they have a cable under tension?
Right.
Pre-stress.
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 Yeah, pre-stress. Okay. We have the, if you don't have one, get a little help. Look at the next report, the legal and consulting report. That'll get your attention.
It sure does. I guess we're gonna skip the credit card right there. No.
No, it's there too.
Yeah, but.
It's not as impressive as the other.
Yeah.
Is that what you call it? Okay, impressive.
sad part of it is, whenever I see all that stuff, how much we're having to spend, we shouldn't have to be spending near that amount if this deal had been properly handled. Instead of Texas is spending about $1 million a month on the trial. And we're having to spend as much just to be able to try to figure out what the heck's going on, which is a very, very, very sad state of affairs. And a lot of wasted.
Yeah, we'll be covering that in executive session.
Right. Well, it's public news, public information. Anyway,
Our final is an engagement letter with Bixler and Company.
yeah. Is it basically the same as last year?
Basically the same,
I think it's better.
there
It's
is
a little better.
there is a slight change to it, because this year we did receive over $750,000 in federal grant funds. So there's a different setup that needs to be addressed in the engagement letter, along with the actual audit.
And the price, I can't even see the price.
Johnny, let me tell you, the one thing about the letter that bothers me is, it acts like they're doing you a favor to give you an audit report. And I thought about, well, how do you change it? And I'm not sure. But, you know, they talk about they're gonna follow the rules of the American Auditors Association rules and so forth. And I don't like the tone of the letter, because it's like they're doing you a favor.
Well,
Yeah, I think Mary, it's the same letter we've been using for quite a few years, right?
No,
Yes.
it's changed, it's expanded.
It's
maybe
changed.
they are
Yeah,
doing us a
quite a
favor,
bit.
Spear, nobody else will
Quite a
audit
bit.
us.
Well, let's use the letter we used last year if it's changed.
That's a good
It's okay.
suggestion.
Letter's
There was
fine.
just
What
some
the,
extra language added to the beginning of the, I believe, the first paragraph, in regards to covering the $750,000 federal grant that needs to be
Oh,
audited.
okay, all right. So it's the same letter. It's the
Yes.
same letter.
Right, we need to comply with that federal.
Government.
Sure, yeah, that'd be fine.
the letter's
I got it,
fine,
sorry.
Blair, go back to sleep.
I would use last year's letter.
I was just responding to your attorney.
Well, you don't need to, I will.
I was just responding to the
The
engineer.
partner is 120, the
125 an hour.
the charges are the same as last year.
They are the same.
Lisa,
Well, do I hear a motion to approve the engagement letter
Lisa got it. So moved.
with the accountants? Larry makes a motion, do I hear a second?
Thank you.
Second.
Absolutely.
George seconds, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right. As
Quarterly
usual,
report we did.
we did that. As usual, Mary escapes very quickly and very.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, Sonia.
Good morning, Sonia.
Good morning. First of all, we have a few corrections on BNC on the years, on 2013 through 2020 and 2021.
Oh.
Okay, just on the years.
Under B there.
Now, are you talking about that exhibit about the,
No, sir, on the actual,
I'm sorry?
on the actual board packet, sir, on BNC, the years, we didn't correct that.
Right under tab 6, Jim.
Right, I've got that open. It says the city of El Paso on behalf of the Public Service Board assignments,
Well, she's talking about the cover sheet.
The cover sheet, sir.
all the cover sheet.
We have no tax adjustments this month.
She's just making a correction on the cover sheet. Sonia, say that again for Jim, Mr. Spear.
I'm
We
sorry.
have the correction, sir. on
One more
the-
page.
One more page, Jim.
The other way.
Which is the,
Under 6, go to number 6.
It's on the agenda.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
that's what I've got.
Now, the very first
Right there.
cover, there you go.
Oh, I finally found it, okay.
We have no
Well,
tax.
let's see that sentence B, it says on behalf of the Public Service Board. Now, the Public Service Board is merely a department of the city, that's all it is.
That's what it says,
Yeah,
Jim. The
that's
city of El
city.
Paso.
Well, I don't understand the on behalf.
Their
I say
assignment.
the city of El Paso, and then maybe just put a comma on the front of the Public Service Board to come after. But, you know, they have a lot of go-arounds on the status of the
There
Public Service Board.
are no English teachers in our group, so you don't have to worry about all that. It's fine, and it's about the assignments, so. The key words are last one.
With the assignments, there's no tax adjustments this month. With our assignments for the city of El Paso and Lower Valley Water District, the Public Service Board, we only had 3. But for Lower Valley Water District, we actually had 334 assignments this past month. They upped the game a little bit.
They're good. Very good. Very good.
So we all understand that the Public Service Board is just a department of the city.
Sure.
That's all.
I'm not sure what they are, Spirit.
I am. I studied in court.
Any questions?
I think that's all we need to set the contract rate.
Yes, sir.
That's what
Yes, we
need to
have
do.
that. Yes, sir.
And is that the very last deal?
Setting the assessments for 2021 tax rate.
That's for the non, contracts, right? Just the contracts, or is for setting all of it?
We're setting all of it, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir. For the tax assessment, the water delivery charge, and the tax acceptance. We need approval on
Which
the
is
tax
under
rate.
E, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
These are the proposed ones, guys, that we talked about earlier in our budget process.
Thank you, yeah. I make a motion we accept the 2021 tax rates as exemplified there in D and E.
Yes, D and E.
I think it's the same thing.
No, we just separate the exempt and the actual tax assessment.
We have a motion to approve the tax rate as presented. Do I hear a second? Larry, second?
Well, yeah, we changed it
You
now.
two are the bad guys. Anytime you say the tax rate,
We're the good guys.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, Tony?
Thank you.
You did a great job, as usual. All right, GM,
Okay.
your report.
All right. Before we get started, I wanted to recognize one of our own. I've known this young lady since she started working on her college degree, and last week, I'm proud to announce that Sharon got her master's degree
All right.
on Friday.
Good girl.
So,
Thank you.
after hard work and struggles, and she got her degree done, and then she went after her master's and just completed.
Perfect. That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Sharon. Congratulations.
Bert and I are trying to talk her into going back and getting her engineer degree. So we're still working on that, right, Bert?
Yeah, she should.
She's been doing an excellent job there in engineering, and has caught on great with all our process and licensing and so on, so.
I thought you did a great job, reminded me what the meeting was.
So I just wanted to make you all aware of that.
Thank
That's
you.
great. Congratulations.
So on item A, I guess you all have been hearing about the raw sewage going into the river in the Upper Valley, and it was caused by a failure of a 25-year-old sewer line that services all the west side, almost of the mountain area. So because of that failure, we had to shut down our irrigation season as far as return flow and coming from the Upper Valley, because we didn't want any of that raw sewage going into our canal system and so on, and going into the residential area. So we've been working with El Paso Water. They reached out to us, John Ballou and Alan Schubert reached out to me, and then I contacted Al on it. So we're helping them, actually pumping some of that raw sewage out of the river into the tail end of the American Canal extension, and then going into our Riverside Canal for about 1.25 miles to the Robert Bustamante water treatment plant, where it's being treated, and then we're getting it back into the Riverside after it's it's treated on the opposite side of our tapanco that we had to place. But anyway, we've been working with them, trying to help them out as much as possible. Like I told a news reporter yesterday, I said, this is something that we've never had to deal with in El Paso, and it could be, you know, disastrous for our community. And he says, well, aren't you concerned about the raw sewage going into the river? I said, yes, we're concerned, but there's nowhere else it could
What are
go.
you gonna do with it?
And if they were to shut off that line, then the whole mountain area of homes and businesses and so on would be left without sewage, to include a few of our people sitting in here, I guess.
Really?
Not me.
So,
Yep, you mean,
Spirit.
so it was very important for us to coordinate with them and try and help them out. I will tell you, we are documenting everything that we're spending. We're using a couple of our pumps, our huge pumps, to pump out of the river into the American Canal extension. This was something that actually, hats off to Pete. Pete came up with this idea of using Wasteway 3 and pumping, reversing the flow into the American Canal extension and helping them out this way. Since then, they've contacted us. They're going to do some pumping at the settling basin and pump into another treatment plant that they have up there, where they can try and control this as much as possible. But this is,
how are they gonna ultimately finish? Are they gonna try to go around and put a new
well,
deal, or
they're
what?
putting in a brand new line made out of fiberglass. The one they had was cast iron, and instead of
That
being,
far back?
instead of being round, it collapsed on them and turned egg-shaped, and so they started, it started disconnecting in certain areas, and where they couldn't repair it anymore.
Imagine.
You said it was 25 years old?
25 years old.
And they were still using cast iron back then?
Mhm.
Thought that was.
Yeah, so this new one is a fiberglass. It's not due to be completed till the first week of December.
Well,
How
there's two
are they
lines.
doing it, is what I'm wondering.
They're
How are they gonna reconnect and get it all back?
yeah, they're putting in a new line right next to the, several feet away from the old one. And eventually, when they finish it, then they can connect and stop the flow into the river.
Watch them connect it, so.
But it's caused,
With all that pressure.
raw sewage has gone down to Donovan, and then from Donovan it goes into the river. But they actually flooded some homes and a few businesses
We have our own,
with raw sewage. And
Along Donovan?
take your
yeah,
money.
so it's been a real big problem for them, and we're just trying to help as much as we can. But they did say, keep account of everything you're spending, and we'll reimburse you.
I'm
And
sure
so
they go down.
Didn't they have two lines, Jim? I thought they were reporting two of them.
that one, this one, it's a big one.
It's like-
Yeah, they had two two breaks, but they're replacing it with one line.
Yeah.
Can the treatment plant accommodate?
Well, that's been the other problem, is that Pete's guys have had to shut off the pumps because the Robert Bustamante, you know, that treats all the east side sewage. And so they only had about maybe 12 to 15% capacity where they could go in there and treat it.
Excess capacity.
So and then the one off the settling basin, they say it's between 5 and 10% that they're going to be able to treat. So they've really been having a hard time.
Oh, yeah. It's
Rough issue.
huge, man.
Of course, the media has been all over them, and some of the public, but yeah, they're dealing with the situation. They've hired people. They're going to have to do a humongous cleanup of the river once this is all done with, and of course our canal system also.
There went the city budget.
And so it's been a huge issue for them.
Oh, yeah.
How much impact is it causing our constituents as far as the use of the water that normally we'd be using right now?
Well, we lost,
Is it minimal, or is it just-
we lost the possibility of bringing the return flow that comes in from the upper valley, and, which is quite a bit. So-
Yeah, it was only about 10 CFS from the Montoya and about 8 CFS from the river. The river would be dropping off. But the big hurt was we lost Haskell Street, which was about 25. But we're getting part of it back. We're getting 12 of it back because of the increased treatment at Bustamante. So it's the net loss is about 20 CFS.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be on the other side of the border forever until the invention of back, what, 70s or whatever, where they, we paid for their treatment plant.
Yeah, they're only treating about 25%. I mean, the rest of it's going it's already down equipment. It's made it equipment quite a while back.
It's down there in North End.
They're dealing with a smell along the border and all that. I mean, it's,
What's the long-term effect? Are we gonna be able to capture that return flow here after they get it fixed up, or?
well, yeah, what they're treating is going back into the riverside, so we're utilizing, once it's treated, we're utilizing a little bit more than what we're used to getting around this time.
I mean, next irrigation system, you think will be?
December 2nd, it's supposed to normalize.
Yeah,
on the 2nd.
everything should be all right, and then
Well,
they do their cleanup and.
the cleanup, how long is that gonna take? And they have to get whose approval to get that, once it's clean, that it's clean, we can use it.
Yeah, it's only 2 miles that they have to clean up the part that we use of the river upstream of American, so they'll get that cleaned pretty quick. So we'll be back. Our system will be back up and operational pretty fast.
We don't
They do have to
any approval, Al, from anybody that it's safe for us to use?
well, obviously, there's 2 situations. One, what's going on right now, we've been real careful to make sure that it doesn't get into our system. And number 2 is after December 2nd and it normalizes, then we have to move into the cleanup phase. But the cleanup that we need to make sure happens is it's basically up there at the power plant, is where it's going in right there at the turn, and then all the way through to the settling basin. That's all contaminated, but it'll be pretty easy. It won't be too hard to clean the concrete line canal. And then we've got our section is a little tiny bit of the American Canal extension, and mainly the riverside, about 3/4 of a mile of the riverside. Pete can talk to that. I think that's all concrete line too, right? Isn't it, Pete?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So our cleanup, they said they'd make that a priority, right, Judy?
Yes.
What I'm asking, is there any regulatory authority that has to give us approval to reuse it?
Yeah, they're working with TCEQ on it, and of course, they're still facing probably a fine.
Yeah,
And,
but I was worried about being able to get an approval.
But they've already hired a contractor to start looking at what he's going to need to do for the cleanup once they shut off and that happens. So
What's our? Since Art's here, what is the odor issue like down at your farm?
So far out, it's okay. Our drift is still kind of north to south early in the morning. Winter time, I know we're getting close, it shifts, and then I generally get a south to north early morning. And so, but that's normally every winter because they got the Sequia Madre running right there, or Sequia, Agua Negras, or whatever they call it. And in the
the Sequia Negros down by Fort Equipment's where it comes in, right?
Yeah, and that's the one that is always, we get that every winter. So far, knock on wood, today, we have not smelled it at Rio Bravo.
Okay.
As the winter goes on, we probably will.
That's because it's all being dumped over here.
you can smell it,
On the upper valley.
especially in the evenings, you can smell it along the border highway.
Didn't I read out that somebody said it's already down there as far as Fort Equipment? Could that possibly be true?
Yeah, it made it on October 8th. I checked with Danny Chavez, and but they can smell it down there. The Miller's place, you can smell it pretty good. They said, but we show that it arrived probably equipment around the 8th of October.
Wow.
Okay.
Chewy, going back to the plan, I understand they're talking to, I'm sure, a specialty engineer firm that does this kind of stuff. Can they give us, or have they given us an idea of when they'll give you the plan? And the reason I'm asking is, the elephant in the room is, when you're dealing with agencies, I think, Johnny kind of touched upon it a little bit, we don't know what their issues are. We deal with the federal government, that's another issue, TCQ is another issue. And those are the hurdles that the city of El Paso is gonna have to cross. But until there's a plan that's been approved, accepted, and for implementation, December may be, to shoot for a date, but I'm concerned that it might carry over. And if it does, what is the impact for the district?
Well, they can't start the cleanup till they shut everything down. But they're working on the plan. They've got one huge company to deal with this that's already studying the situation. But Al and I have been meeting with them constantly, and Al's been almost daily meeting with their people,
Okay.
with their engineers. So we'll make sure. I mean, they
That
know our. We've already voiced our concern for next year. So they promised us their cleanup they would take care of our canal first.
Yeah, they need to get Jonathan Rogers, I mean, we are supplying water eventually to Jonathan Rogers, so they want that put back as clean as possible. I think the concrete's gonna be pretty easy to clean up. And there's gonna be a lot of natural desanitization with the, just ultraviolet from the sun and from the oxygen. But once we get the bulk out, the first thing is to remove the bulk, any bulk deposits that we have, and that's where they're gonna have the biggest issue. But man, since we're lucky, we're in 2 concrete canals, that one owned by the United States, American Canal, so Boundary Commission has jurisdiction. They actually own the river too, up to the point of spill. So I think the Boundary Commission's gonna take lead, don't you, Chewy? I mean, it's sort of their property that's contaminated the most.
Right. Yes. And they're working with IBWC and the federal government and TCEQ on all this. I mean, they're staying right on top of it.
Well, the TCQ has authority on these issues and jurisdiction. From my experience, and we're working with John, is we need to protect ourselves, so we'll be active working with the city, and John wants it that way. We can't depend on the state government to take timely action, so we'll make sure that it's done to meet their standards. And we haven't really had any communication with TCQ. We're letting John handle all that.
All right, well said. That's my concern. I think it's all our concern. Any impact.
Then item B, I'd like to move it to the close since it has to do with the possibility of land sale. And then just for information purposes, I received a call, Johnny, in regards to the letter that you sent Commissioner Palumbo. And I received a call. He has referred it, since his travel is restricted right now, he has...
About the Middle Rio Grande issue.
He has referred it to Wayne Pullen, the regional director in Salt Lake. He actually reached out to me last week and wants to schedule, he actually wants to come to El Paso to visit with us. So he's looking at the 28th or 29th of this month are the dates that he was looking at. So he hasn't called me back yet, but he said he'd get back to me as soon as he confirmed up the
I
date.
hope it's not the 29th, because I've got a trip I'm gonna do 29th.
Okay, I'll try and push it for the 28th. And anyway,
That's a letter that we and Alphabet sent about the...
jointly.
Yeah, about the way
Yeah.
their bureau's handling their Albuquerque office.
Yes, and I can have Sharon print you a copy for you. But I did talk to him about meeting with us and Elephant Butte, because you remember we had requested a joint meeting. I talked to Gary Esslinger, and he was gonna talk to Mike McAfee. So he's working on that, but he said they'll come down here and the visit will be here in our offices.
Oh, well, okay.
And I briefed Al also, so Al knows about it, and he's committed to having.
Yeah, we can talk about it under the litigation too, since we're in a joint defense with them. I think Renee's on the line if he says that's okay.
Yes.
That's all I have for my part.
But that is an issue that has potential for and is involved actually in litigation at this point, so.
It is a legitimate issue to be discussed. It's part of the litigation.
All right, district engineer.
I think Chewy and R's life's been consumed with the sewage flow, that really, and then of course the litigation that's going on, that we'll talk about it closed. It's been hard to think about anything else. It did snow. That's a cheery event that happened. It was a very early snow, 14 inches at the very high altitude, not much at low altitude. We've got another wave coming down. These what they're classifying as these atmospheric rivers, so that's good. I like that term, atmospheric river. It's right now, it's because of the high pressure located over New Mexico and Utah. It doesn't look like it's going to make it down to us here in El Paso, but it looks like it might have a chance of making it to the Colorado New Mexico line, so that would be good for us. And they're predicting waves coming through. I mean, it's been historically there's been moisture waves coming from the northwest in the winter every 7 to 11 days. So they're seeing that pattern reset up right now. So that's a good thing. We may have a year for some potential snowfall.
Great. Is there an El Nino effect going on this year?
It's actually classified as El Nino now, so they're saying the Southern Pacific is cooling a little bit. But that ignores, there's such a big upturn or turnover in ocean temperatures, where we're seeing these waves come through from the warm water that's coming into the northern part of the Pacific up near Alaska. Not warm water like we would say, but the water's warmer than it normally would be. And so it's just a matter of getting that water, depending on how the jet stream is, whether we can get it down south enough, or whether not anything we can do about it, but hopefully it'll come south.
Well, it's at least encouraging.
Yeah, it's better to have 14 inches in October than not, right?
Amen. Anything's better than nothing.
And the ski lift's open, so if you guys want to go skiing. There are a few rocks. There's a few rocks there now, but they're open. They opened it.
Our priorities are all over the place.
Yeah, mine is good. You saw what a fraternity did when he tried skiing at about 60. So I'm over now skiing, what happened.
I'll let Bert do like we used to do with Jay. I'll let Bert do the third-party construction of the canals. Right now, we've had quite a bit of just aerial crossings. But Bert, if you want to talk about any other construction going on.
Now, we do have one for the Lower Valley Water District on a sewer line that they're going to be installing and connecting to a manhole. So we've got that one ready to go. And then we've got a few more for Transdelco, but if we want to go and do the Lower Valley Water.
Yeah, I think those will be under 13. What I was talking about is active licenses that have already been approved that would be ongoing construction today as we speak in our district. So you guys approved quite a few aerial crossings, and those are ongoing. I think there was one we approved for the Lower Valley having to do with a rerouting of a sewer line on the Franklin drain. I think, isn't that, you went to the kickoff meeting of those. I think that construction should be starting if it hasn't, right?
Correct, yeah, the Lower Valley Water District is doing Franklin Drain, doing some work on that, replacing one of our culverts, and then trying to finish up sewer connections on their Russa sewer area. So yeah, we've been monitoring that and attending their construction meetings every 2 weeks. And then also because of all these approvals that we've done in the last couple of months, we've got another person out there helping David to monitor construction going on. So Israel Nadim is helping us in that regard. And so far he's been doing a real good job, catching on real quick.
So if you guys have any questions, if seen any activity out there that we need to inform you about, let us know.
I haven't. All right, Dr. Blair. Pedro, you're on. Good morning.
Okay, well, just a couple of things that we're working on at the moment. I don't have no PowerPoints on these projects, but our mower system, or our mowers are still working on our delivery system, and also our herbicide. We'll probably be doing this for about another month. I'm starting to see some, the weeds starting to die out, I guess, with the cold weather coming in. So I think for one more month that we should be